Namaste to all the viewers. It's my pleasure to welcome you all back on this national webinar series, Yoga Ramayana Vishwakosha History. We are glad to have with us Dr. Ishwar Basavareddy sir for our sessions.
पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। Namaste, pranams to you all. My pranams to respected Guruji, my pranams to all disciples of Lord Sri Rama, my pranams to all yoga enthusiasts and viewers. Today it is the 5th day and we were discussing about the various teachings of Vasishtha to his disciple Rama to unfold the life and its miseries. And as I envisaged earlier, they have been enlisted and discussed about human suffering and the nature of life, desire for freedom from human suffering, liberation from the nature of life and human suffering comes from spiritual living. Efforts that are required to live a spiritual life. Theories of existence including creativity and free will, the role of meditation in spiritual liberation for practitioners, and most importantly, the bliss or the enlightenment. So, as we said, after an opening discussion, as a introduction to the subjects of detachment and intense longing for liberation, there is an urge for liberation. Sage Vasishtha dealt with the origination, that is Utpatti, of the visible universal Jagat, what we discussed yesterday in the philosophical foundations of Yoga Vasishtha, and later its substance, the Sthiti. It was maintained that the origination of the universe was purely accidental to the mind of the onlooker. In that chapter on substance, it was established that the universe draws its sustenance also from the mind itself. Now it remains to be shown that the dissolution of the universe too is depend on the mind of the seer. Why I am talking about today, we are discussing about the mind, but could the dissolution, that is ending of the universe, is it depend on the mind? If mind at all exists, the universe invariably follows it one way or the other, either by origination or by sustenance, utpatti or by sthiti. So, there is no possibility of the universe being amuled by the mind if the mind manages to continue its existence. For this reason, it was repeatedly pointed out in the earlier chapters, earlier prakarnas, that the universe would end only when the mind ended and there was no other way to dissolve the universe, because the world is created in the mind. After delivering such a sermon, there hardly remains anything further to be added. Therefore, Maharshi Vasishtha did not want to talk anymore about the ending of this world, because the world is created in the mind itself. Therefore, instead he planned to discuss the ways and means of calming down the mind, to dissolve the waves of the mind. Therefore, Vasishtha did not prefer the word annihilation, he preferred the word calming down the mind. Calming down means quietening the mind. It is like containing the fire, like extinguishing the flames. An ember may burn for some time, but subsequently the fire dies out. The shape of the original piece of wood or coal from which the ember had come remains ever, remains even after the fire gets extinguished. Similarly, when once the mind is dissolved, the world or the jagat or the universe also gets extinguished through remaining in form like a burnt and ember. The world gets contained, it is quietened, it is dissolved. So, by calming down the mind, quietening the mind, the world gets dissolved on its own. Simple. Therefore, Maharshi Vasishtha tackled this event in the 5th chapter, Upashama, like questions like what are the ways and means of dissolving the mind? What methods can be adopted to quiet the mind? Which processes help in calming down the mind? So, in the earlier my discourses, I mentioned about Mana Prashamanopayaha, one of the important definition of yoga in Yoga Vasishtha. Therefore, the Yoga Vasishtha doesn't tackle any other things but how to quieten the mind. Therefore, today ways to calm down the mind is our topic of discussion. So, let us see what are the causative factors for the visible world and the sequence of causes. One is the gross body, Sthula Sharira. The subtle body, the energy, the prana. Then comes the mind. Then after that, vibrations of life, breathe and intense intent. Then objects of samvedya. Then objects of samvedya proceeds to the Nirguna Brahman, the Brahman who is not having any features or attributes. Therefore, the origination of the Supreme Brahman is a causal, and Brahman is the root, the prime cause for all causes. Therefore, this is the causative principle. If you understand where mind stands and what its relations between the body, the subtle body, the gross body, and how it comes between the realization of the Brahman. Therefore, here we explain 7 steps or ways to transcend the mind. The first and foremost important thing is study the scriptures from the very beginning. The scriptures written by the great Maharshis, the mystics, rishis, who transcend themselves to realize the ultimate reality in the state of Turiya. So that's why the Vedas and Upanishads have been considered, or they are written by the Brahman, because the knowledge acquired by the great rishis are through this source itself. Therefore, studying the scriptures from the beginning is the first step for to transcend the mind. Then Sajjana Sangatya, keeping the company of noble persons. So they are all seems to be very simple but very, very important steps. And any Advaita or who want to realize the Brahman, and there are 4 prerequisites, they are called Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. Viveka, Vairagya, Satsampattu and Mumukshutva are the 4 qualities you should have if you want to realize the Brahman. Therefore, a person should be in noble company and draw the benefits of 4-fold accomplishments called Sadhana Chatushtaya. Third one is purify the mind, or in other words, cultivate complete renunciation, Vairagya. So Vairagya, because the desire leads to samasya, therefore Vairagya. Take refuge under a learned scholar or a teacher or a guru, giving up egoistic feelings. The teacher is needed to give up my ego. The teacher recommends worshipping a deity with attributes suguna to begin with. So both the bhakti and karma are the means. It may not be, but in the beginning we need all these things. If a teacher recommends to you follow some worship of anything, and deity with the attributes who is having a guna, but Brahman doesn't have any guna, but you have started. That's why Swami Vivekananda mentioned. So idolatry is the beginning of kindergarten of the Bhakti Yoga. We may start with that. So following his advice and pray to that deity, observing all the prescribed rituals, thus obtain the blessings of the deity. That will give you the confidence. So it seems to be very strange, this 5th one, because when you are going to realize the Nirguna Brahman, there is no attribute for him and he is not having any features, but you have started your journey to realize or worship a deity who is having lot of attributes. Sisti, Sthiti, Laya, it's called personal God, or any other attributes. So it's only ordinary knowledge seeker who can have this, because we are in the world, immediately it is not possible to acquaint with the spiritual living. It is not possible for everyone to understand that concept Nirguna Brahman and to remain in that path. So, to build the confidence level, that starts with this one. The fifth one seems to be little bit of deviate from the original things, but it sounds well for the common people. That means Yoga Vasishtha has taken care of not only the hardcore spiritual seekers or mumukshu, but also it has given importance to the common people. Then proceed then with an inquiry into the truth or the self. So always the inquiry is very, very important. We see when the 4 pillars, that's why in the second lecture itself I mentioned about it. So only after that self inquiry about the self, an individual will be able to realize the supreme self, Parabrahman, hidden minutely within one's own self, like the way a prospector recognizes a practice of gold, particle of gold in muck. So this is the way how we have to go ahead. Therefore, the transcend the mind has 7 steps were given. If one goes along these steps subsequently, it becomes clear that the supreme self is different from the embodied worldly living being. So we are in the world and he is completely different. A leaf of lotus may exist in the water, or water may fall on the leaf of lotus leaf, but neither one sticks to the other. It's the beauty. The lotus is on the water and water also falls on lotus, but neither the water nor the lotus sticks to one another. Similarly, the supreme self, the Parabrahman, does not affected by either worldliness or samsara tattva, or by an individual self or jivatva. He never affected. World and Parabrahman are totally irreconcilable. Even then, there is an impression created as if perfect self is embodied and is immersed within the affairs of this world. The reason for this is the mind. So, giving all these things are spiritual, transcending the mind, and how supreme or Parabrahman is different. He remains, but he completely detached. Then therefore, the reason for this is the mind. In the 5th chapter, many examples have been given to understand these concepts. People think that they experience sorrow or happiness in this world. In reality, for whom is this sorrow or happiness? Is it for the inert body or for Supreme Self that transcends everything? It is not possible for sorrow and happiness to impact the inert body, the subtle body. There is no question of sorrow or happiness affecting self, which transcend them. Obviously, then nobody has happiness or sorrow. Everything in this world is imbued with Supreme Self, and Supreme Self is infinite. It is equal and tranquil. Hold on firmly to this view. This is very important. That is, everything in this world is imbued with Supreme Self, and Supreme Self is infinite, Ananta. It is ever tranquil, never perturbed. Creation and visualization, Srishti and Drishti, that is the entire visible world was nothing but visualization. This is very important. Whatever we are seeing, the visible world, I am seeing even the Akash, everything is nothing but the visualization. Nothing was really created. The visual world, visualization of the creation is no more than ripples in a pond, just like a waves in the pond, or speaks of light that appears to a greedy person. Therefore, it's a Yoga Vasishtha will go to the very, very minute aspects and simply explain. Vasishtha explained to the Sri Rama, do not worry whether the visible world and reality, or that is the absolute reality, Brahman, are one and the same or two different things. Answering either way would be wrong, because this is very important. Wrong because the world you see is an apparition. Suppose you see a snake at dusk. One example everybody give. But many people, we don't make the analyzation of this example. Suppose you see a snake at dusk. He found out later and under good light that it was actually a rope. The snake is not there anymore. Simple. Now, would you say that the snake and the rope are one or the two different things? One may argue that they are different because the rope was not seen as such and a snake had been seen. In the dark or in the dusk, we have seen the snake, but in the light you have seen the rope. Another may dissent, saying that they should be considered as one because a snake distinctly separate from the rope could not be found again. But in fact, both arguments are visualization based or Drishtivada. So, like this we can see the arguments. Simple one, best example is given, and accordingly both arguments can we see. But now let me see. What is that? Strictly speaking, the rope and the snake are not one, nor are they two different things. Neither they are one nor they are two different things. In a similar way, Brahman and Jagat are not one or two. That is the reason why Vedas declare Sarvam Kalvidam Brahman. Everything here is Brahman. Atma Vedam Sarvam. All this here is self only. Brahma Vedam Sarvam. Everything here is Brahman only. And we can get many Aham Brahmasmin, I am Brahman, and Vedanta Mahavakyas. And we can give many such statements from the Brahma Sutras and different Vedanta philosophies. Therefore, Vasishtha says, Rama, let go of these false impressions like I am different from that. That is different from me. Go beyond dualities. So that's why in the entire Yoga Vasishtha it is Advaita, supreme reality. Stay forever in a sattvic quality, sattva guna. Do not go after acquiring and saying things. Do not allow sorrow to affect you. Vasishtha says to Rama, by calming and serene and live in loneliness, aloneness. subjugate your thought process. Sit quietly, calm down and subjugate your thought process, orient it. Accept things as they come. That's why in the meditation, many people ask to control. No. Go on observing the thoughts after thoughts after thoughts. Then what are the emotions attached with the thoughts? Then slowly a meditator shall recognize the origin of these thoughts. They are in the Chitta Bhumi. Therefore, accepting things as they come. Do not regret to experience things. Do not wish for anything. Do not exert yourself to procure anything. Do not fantasize. Do not invite nor reject anything. Whatever comes, take it. What a wonderful message. This is the way how we have to calm down the mind, conquer the mind, quiet the mind. What is that? Accept things as they come. Many times we don't do that. Do not regret to experience things. So sometime, I spent whole life, I didn't do that, this. No. Don't wish for anything. And don't exert yourself to procure anything new. Whatever exists, whatever comes to you, and take it. Don't fantasize, dream. Do not invite nor reject anything. Don't invite, also don't reject whatever comes. It's a dukkha or tapa, it is a happiness for that moment, because they are all the creation of mind. So what a wonderful message sage Vasishtha gives to his disciple Sri Rama. And that's why this paragraph, this teaching from this 5th chapter has struck me. So it takes time to understand the simple one. Things as they come, accept the things as they come, is the principle to harness the mind. Accept the things as they come. Do not invite nor reject anything in life. What a wonderful statement. So therefore, if you follow the above, Vasishtha says, Rama, you will attain the supreme state, transcending the world. By this way, will not be deluded, even if you are involved in this world. I am in this world, but I am not deluded. Hey Rama, if your father crowns you, take over the reins of the kingdom and rule well with equipoise. That's why in the beginning said, after getting all this spiritual knowledge, Rama not renunciating the world, he get the crown and rule the kingdom. Inspire other kings with your experience, exemplary deeds, the fruits, the way you rule the country. Having secured this life as a result of the past deeds, it does not befit a wise person who knows truth to refuse what is obtained or long for something that is not acquired. Therefore, Vasishtha emphasizes on one is you accept the things as they come, don't reject and don't accept. And don't renunciate, don't go away from the life. Remain. If you get any post, take it and do it. Don't give up. Therefore, know that you are not the doer. What is action or work done? Work done is displacement. I talk about three types of displacements or movements. They are Samvit Spanda, Manasa Spanda and Indriya Spanda. That is movement of knowledge, movement of mind and movement of organs. Because Vasishtha says, you are not the doer. Let me conclude here. We will discuss further how to calm down the mind. Then we conclude in next 2 days. Dhanyavad. Thank you very much. Om Shanta Shanta Shantihi.
We are very grateful to have Dr. Ishwar Basavareddy sir with his beautiful expositions on Yoga Vasishtha. Namaste.